Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about trigonometry. So trigonometry can be used to help us find the length of a side or the size of an angle on a right angle triangle. So first of all, we need to know how to label a right angle triangle. So the longest side on a right angle triangle is the side opposite the right angle, and this is called the hypotenuse. If we just label an angle on the triangle, the side opposite this angle is called the opposite, and the side next to this angle, or the side that's adjacent to the angle, is called the adjacent. So the next thing we need to help us are these three functions called sine, cos and tan. And they come in the form of three triangles. So the S here stands for sine, the C here stands for cos, and the T here stands for tan. The O stands for opposite, the H stands for hypotenuse, and the A stands for adjacent. So how do we actually use these triangles to help us find the sides and angles on a right angle triangle? Right, so here we have a right angle triangle. Here we have the size of the hypotenuse, we have an angle, and we want to work out the length of this side. So the first thing we do is we have to label the sides of the triangle. So this is the hypotenuse, this is the adjacent, and this is the opposite. Now the two sides we're interested in are the adjacent and the hypotenuse. And that's because we want to work out the side of the adjacent, and we have the length of the hypotenuse. Every time we do a trigonometry question, we're always going to be interested in two sides. And from those two sides, we can decide which triangle we're going to use. So we're going to use the triangle that has the adjacent in it and the hypotenuse in it. So in this case, we're going to use this triangle here, because it has the adjacent and the hypotenuse. We want to work out the adjacent. So using the triangle, we know that the adjacent is equal to C times H. What does C actually mean? C stands for cos theta, where theta is the size of the angle, and then we multiply that by H. So we do cos of 17, because that's our angle, and we multiply it by 25, which is the size of the hypotenuse. And then we just put cos 17 into our calculators, and we multiply that by 25, and we find our final answer will be 23.9 centimetres. Alright, this time we have a different triangle, and we have an angle, a side, and we want to find out this side here. So as before, we're going to label the sides first. So this side here, the longest side opposite the right angle, is the hypotenuse. This is our angle that we're interested in, and the side opposite it is the opposite. So this leaves this one next to the angle as the adjacent. So the two sides we're interested in is the opposite and the adjacent. So if we look at our three triangles, we want to use this one, because this one has the opposite and it has the adjacent. And we want to work out the adjacent. So using the triangles, we know that A is equal to O divided by T. And again, what does T stand for? T stands for tan theta, where theta is the angle that we're interested in. So plugging in the numbers, O is 14, and then we divide that by tan 25. And then plugging this into our calculator, we find that our final answer is 30.0 centimetres. Alright, let's see how we can find an angle on a right angle triangle. So let's first label this triangle. This is the hypotenuse, this side here is the opposite, and this is the adjacent. So the two sides we're interested in are the hypotenuse and the opposite, so we're going to be using this one. So this time we want to find out this angle here, x. So we set S equal to O over H. Now what does S actually stand for? It stands for sine theta, where theta is the angle. Now if we plug in our values, we know that sine of x, because our angle is x, is equal to 19 over 27. So what we actually now want to do is just find x on its own, so we need to get rid of this sine somehow. And the way we do that is we apply the inverse of sine to both sides, and that gets rid of the sine here. So we get x equals sine to the minus 1 of 19 divided by 27. And the way you can do this is it's just in your calculator. Just above the sine button, if you look, there will be a little sine to the power of minus 1. And the way you get that is by clicking shift and then sine. So then plugging this into our calculator, we get 44.7 degrees, because remember x is an angle. Alright, so this time we have this triangle here, and now if we label the sides, this is our hypotenuse, this is our opposite, and this is our adjacent. So the two sides we're interested in are the opposite and the adjacent. So we're going to be using this triangle here. So we get T is equal to O over A, because we want to find the angle x. And again, what does T stand for? It stands for tan theta is equal to O over A. And now plugging in the values, we get that tan x, because x is the value of our angle, is equal to 38 divided by 51. And again, we want to get x on its own, so we apply the inverse to both sides again. And all that does is gets rid of the tan here. So it becomes x equals tan to the minus 1, 38 divided by 51. And again, we can find tan to the minus 1 by clicking shift tan on our calculators. So then plugging that in to the calculator, we'll get that our final value is 36.7 degrees. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any request videos, please leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.